bought fabric. But that has got me thinking about fabric stashes. Do you have one? What should you do with it? Is it okay? Let's get into it. So I bought some fabric. It's the first time in a really long time, but I thought I would share that with you. But as I said, it really got me thinking about the issue of fabric stashes. It's one that came up straight away when I asked in my video a couple of videos ago, kind of what sort of things you would like covering on this channel. And it is one that I think about a lot. It's one I've heard talked about a lot, and it's definitely one where fabric and mental health overlap. So today we are going to love the fabric, and we're going to get a little bit curious about what our stashes mean. How do we use them? Is it okay? I hope you're going to enjoy the video. In my last video, I was wearing this purple sweatshirt, and I got this from a thrift store. I got it because I loved the colour. It cost me about £1 or something crazy. I'm not always a super fan of having a transfer on the front of a sweatshirt. However, the colour was amazing, and I wanted some more casual clothes, so I went with it. Wore it a few times, was really liking wearing it. However, the last time I wore it, my husband went, "Lift your arm." I was like, "Are you okay?" He said, "There's a hole in that." And there is. There's a hole in it. It's not massive, but I'd been thinking, oh, maybe I could wear this for work on casual days. And for me, I can't wear it for work if it's got a hole in it. So that made me think, well, I could go and browse for a sweatshirt this colour. Did that, couldn't find one. So of course, maybe this should have been my first thought, but instead I thought I need to get fabric. So here is what I was trying to match. I went to Minerva.com just because I know they have kind of stock fabrics in loads of different colours. I didn't want to get into the rabbit hole of fabric shopping because I was trying not to build my stash, which, by the way, lives in these cupboards behind me. If you've never seen my sewing room before, it doesn't live in that cupboard. If you've never seen my sewing room before, I have got a video. But my fabric stash lives in there. It is, I don't know, probably medium size. But I know I don't have any sweatshirt fabric in there. I know I already have more fabric than I want to have, and I'm already getting into how I feel about my fabric stash. So I just wanted to go somewhere where I could be quite targeted, and for me, I know Minerva was going to meet those needs. So that is where I went, and here is what I bought, this fabric here. So I was matching fabric on a screen, and I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's pretty good. So this is what I bought, and this is what I had. If I had the choice of both in fabrics, then I probably do prefer the sweatshirt fabrics. It's that little bit more intense, but I'm okay with that. It was close enough. And while I was there, because I don't have many sweatshirts, and they do this fabric in a lot of colours, I also ordered a sample, and I love this colour. It's just such... It's my colour. I think they call it Kingfisher. Let me check. The name's not on there. Good. I'm pretty sure the colourway is called Kingfisher. It's a real greeny blue. It's a wonderful colour. And when I have made this, you could already hear me talking about my stash in that sentence. When I have made this, I may well invest in some of this now that I know it is definitely an excellent colour for me. So what pattern am I going to use? I'm not sure. I'm probably going to use the I Am Patterns. I forget if it's lion or zebra. I have the pattern already. My patterns are over there in those folders, because it has exaggerated shoulders, which is really good for my body shape. And it means I don't have to buy another pattern, because stashes of patterns are a thing as well, aren't they? Yes, they are. So I bought some fabric. I also got the matching thread, which is in there. But that is all I got. I bought one piece of fabric for one project, which I knew what I wanted, and I did really targeted shopping. This is not the way I normally buy fabric. To be honest, I've had all the different ways of buying fabric, but I don't live anywhere near a fabric shop. So I have usually been buying fabrics by travelling a long distance to a destination store and buying quite a lot at once. This is how we filled this cupboard. even though I've also had a number of fabric stash clear outs on this channel. And it is something that we all kind of struggle with. I want to read to you a comment that I had from someone who comments loads, and thank you very much, Cecilia, because I love it every time you comment. But she kind of epitomizes the sorts of things that people were thinking about. So I've got my laptop down here. I'm just going to read it to you. So I always call you Cecilia, and it's Cecile. I'm sorry. So Cecile, I have a mental health question regarding stash. I've often been told by immediate families that my stash that I have built over the years and continue to build on is out of control. But I get upset when I'm told that I need to reduce my stash to a more manageable amount. It isn't really about getting rid of the stash. It's about being told to get rid of stuff that makes me happy. Yeah, I can see how being told to get rid of stuff that makes you happy would not feel good. I'm lucky to have a sewing and craft room where it's all contained except what I'm working on, which is beside my chair in our common room. Even though my kids are adults and not at home anymore, comments get made about how full my sewing room is. Why do we, or why do I, she says, get attached to things or to hobbies? And she goes on to say, P.S. I grew up in a low-income family where we didn't have a lot of stuff. And I do think that's often related. Our past is always related to our present. Classic therapist thing to say, I know. But our past is always related to our present, and the things that we find difficult or we really want to do or we really don't want to do are always related in some way to what the world taught us when we were little. So Cecile is really on the money when she kind of wonders about herself, about is it because, and I don't know this because I haven't had a chance to explore this individually with her, but you know, she's wondering about herself. Do I want to have these things as part of my attachment about that, related to the fact that I didn't have a lot of material things when I was younger? And that can be a really direct link. My question to you before we go any further is, do you have a fabric stash, and how do you feel about it? So I would love, while you continue to watch the video, tell me in the comments below, do you keep a stash, or are you really, really disciplined and just buy what you need for a project, make it, then buy the next thing? If I'm honest, that's what I'd like to be like, because I know that that makes me the happiest. And that's why I want to be that way. Not because I think one way is right and one way is wrong. That's just not true. But I know that, or I feel, because I've never actually got here yet, I feel that I would be happier, and creatively I think I would actually find it much more fun if I bought fabric, made the thing, dreamt about the next project, bought the fabric, and then made the thing, and repeat. I think that's the structure that would work for me, because I know that sometimes I just get creative inspiration and I'm like, oh, really want to make such and such. Like a purple sweatshirt. This was partly a functional desire, but it was also, when I saw the colour in the shop, I was like, oh yes, I know I don't have a lot of that colour in my wardrobe. I know it's a really good colour for me. It really suits me. I know it kind of feels quite spring-like, so it ticks loads of boxes. I want that. So my short-term solution was, I'm buying the sweatshirt. That was easy because it was like £1 and because everything was right there in front of me. But it also did spark the creative urge. And then when I was kind of let down by the fact this wasn't as in such good condition, I'm still going to wear it, but it will just be a lounging around sweatshirt, unless I love the other one better. Anyway, I digress. Always I digress. But it sparked the creative urge in me, so I still really desired to have this thing when I found it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So I have gone out, I have done my really targeted shopping, I felt really excited about finding it, and I have now, this weekend, fingers crossed, I'm going to make the sweatshirt, and I will show you it when it's finished. I'm not going to make any promises because the camera right now is actually sat on top of another project, literally on my cutting table, literally on top of the sewing pattern. I've been trying to get a block for trousers right for my body. That is definitely a whole other video because it's not easy. I've tried it before, I've never got there yet. I'm trying again. It's hard. I kind of want to do the fun thing instead. So I have some questions that you can ask yourself and some comments about stashes that might help you kind of just start to consider whether where your stash is, or absence of stash is where you want it to be, or whether you might want to shift it a little bit like I do. So, number one, always make sure that an object serves you, you don't serve the object. So what do I mean by that? I say object because you could apply this to actually anything in your house, but especially anything creative. Like, I'm in a whole room of stuff. I acquire things to do with different creative pursuits. And if I don't keep them organized at the very least, it really feels like I am serving it. Like it's in my way, I have to tidy it up. Whereas if it all sits neatly, ready for me to do something creative with it, even if I'm not doing it right now, it feels like they are sat like a very well-behaved dog, just waiting for me to be ready for it. And the relationship is the other way around. So always make sure an object or your stash serves you, you don't serve it. So for example, everything in this cupboard, everything in this cupboard is starting, not because there's anything wrong with it necessarily, it's starting to cross the line from serving me, as in being exciting and interesting and there as potential, to me serving it because I feel like can't buy any more fabric because I should use that. But that's not really what I want to use. I really want to be able to be inspired and buy the thing I want when I want it, because this is a hobby, this is our fun time. So I don't really want to start to feel the weight of obligation where I am serving the object is not serving me. So just have a think, how does that work with your fabric? Does it serve you? Does it make you happy? Or does some of it, and it might not be all of it, some of it might really make you happy, might hold all those memories, might still feel super exciting. Some of it might not. So it might be a way to even start thinking, if you want to, about organising your stash. This definitely leads on to second question, number 2. How do you actually feel about your stash? So Cecile's question hits the nail on the head, because she was talking about how other people make her feel about it and how she feels about it. Those are actually two different feelings. She's having them both, but they're two different feelings. So other people kind of start to make her feel guilty, start to make her feel like maybe she shouldn't. She said really clearly, I feel like it makes me happy. So have a think about, what does your stash, your fabric, or your creative objects, what does it actually make you feel? Do you feel joy? Or does it feel like a weight? Does it cause arguments? Because you may be happy about it, but others might not. And that might actually be a problem in itself. That, okay, I'm happy about my stash, but it upsets other people in the household. I care about them. I do mind about their point of view. I do mind that it's doing this or that to our household. Maybe I need to balance this. That can be a really complicated judgment to make, but it's a balance. Do you feel defensive? Now, defensiveness is a big thing. We all feel defensive about some things, because if someone comes along and says, you can't have all that stuff in that cupboard, and I'm like, yes, I can. Who are you to tell me that? What's that about? Why are you taking my things away? Immediately, war comes up, because why are they telling me that? What legitimate place do they have? Why do they want to take things away from me? Defensiveness is not necessarily a bad thing. It usually means that somebody else, or sometimes it's directly in the way I just acted out. Sometimes it's an idea or a suggestion or something a bit more subtle, but somebody else is basically trying to push us in a direction that part of us is not comfortable with. So there's two kind of questions there. So the defensiveness is a protection. It's part of us going, that's not okay with me. No. Sometimes defensiveness just is a brick wall, and we use it to not have to consider another person's point of view, or even, and this is worse, not even consider our own point of view. So we can get really entrenched and be like, I'm keeping all that fabric. All of that fabric is mine. You do not tell me what to do. And suddenly I have got a massive brick wall, and even I won't consider that maybe all of that fabric isn't everything that I need and want, because I've had to take this really defensive position, and I feel too vulnerable to even let an inch go, because someone will take a mile. So defensiveness is a really tricksy thing, but don't think it's all bad. But if it's blinding you from being reflective of yourself, then maybe find a bit of a safe space where there isn't someone else pushing you to consider what do you need and what do you really think without all the outside influence. And then, so those are some pretty deep things. Let's go practical. Third and final point for this video, but I really want to hear from you down below what you think of these questions and how do you do your stash. Reality check. Okay, so there's all the feelings, and I'm a therapist. That's the direction I'm taking this channel in, about all the feelings, but there's also all the practicalities. So here are some practicality questions you might want to ask yourself. And here I want to say thank you to Rhonda, who has emailed me and we've had a little bit of a chat about, she had some amazing ideas, really supportive. I really appreciate you, Rhonda. Thank you so much. And thank you for, I want to continue the conversation because it's really interesting. And we've been having a chat about stashes and it's part of what's inspired this video. So, and I'm definitely coming back to this subject, don't you worry. So here's your starter reality questions. Are you actually ever going to use it? Now, that could be a broad question about the whole stash, but really it needs to be about individual pieces because, again, defensiveness. Yes, I'm going to use it. It's all useful. My dad, when he died, before he died, he had loads of useful bits of wood. I kind of inherited that pattern. I have just one little box of useful bits of wood, you know, bits of the skirting board you need, etc. I have some boxes in my craft room. I'll show you some pictures that have useful pieces of fabric in. They're the little scraps, and I justify this to myself because I like making fabric birds. I've only ever made one. I dream about making them quite a lot. I daydream about making them quite a lot. I've only ever made one, and I have, at the last count, 6 medium size boxes of fabric scraps to make these fabric birds, of which I've only made one. Now I'm not ready to give those up, and I'm lucky enough I have space for them. But I do recognise that if I reality check that, there is definitely a mismatch. One bird, 6 boxes of fabric. I could make at least 200 birds with what I've got, and that would probably take me longer than the rest of my life, certainly at the pace I've been going. So, you know, am I ever going to use it? But just be aware that that might make you feel a little bit defensive. So be kind to yourself. Try and do it when you're in an open mind. And there will also be some pieces of fabric for a lot of you out there, I know, that no, I'm never going to use them, and no, I'm not going to give them away because I love the memory that it holds. It makes me think of a person, makes me think of a time, makes me think of a place. That's fine. Obviously, but this is just one question you can ask yourself. Am I ever really going to use that? Question number 2 here on your reality check. Do I really like it? Good question. I have a piece in here. Now this, you'll recognise the colour. Similar theme, hey? Now I do really like it. And when I bought it, I thought, oh, that would make a great dress. And it was cheap. That's a whole other thing, but it was. So it was easy for me to say yes about. But I look at it and I do like it. The colour's great. I love the graphic thing. I actually can't imagine myself wearing something out of this that I would like. So it's a yes and no. This one may not stay in my fabric stash. So do you really like the thing? And be aware of defining too many things as I could make a toile out of that, especially if you're not the kind of person who actually makes toiles. Your third question, can I store it? So I've mentioned I have the luxury of quite a lot of space. I actually, one cupboard. I mean, I know some of you guys won't have a cupboard. I appreciate that. You might have a box. You may not have any space, and that might actually be a useful limiting factor. But can you store it? I could store a fabric stash with thousands more pieces, I reckon. I've got a whole table that you're on. If I was minded to, I could fill the entirety of under there, and that could be hundreds of meters of fabric. So this one doesn't work for me because I can store it. And if you've got plenty of space like Cecile, it's not going to work for you because you can store it. But for others, you know, can you store it? And if you store it, does that compromise other things? Like, do you mind having things shoved under your sofa, shoved under your bed, all the way under your cutting table? Does that make you feel good in a broader sense? It might do, but it might not. And fourth question for now on the reality check, but I am sure some of you will have other great questions. Does it fit your life? So for me, that's probably where this one comes down, because I do like it and I can imagine some great garments made out of it, but does it fit my life? Probably not. Probably not. So yeah, it's a tough one with this one. But if you're going through your fabric, and you don't have to do it all at once, of course, you can do it bit by bit. Those are some reality check questions for you. Are you ever really going to use it? Do you really like it? Like really like it? Because you're worth really liking the fabrics that you use, not just, yeah, it's all right. Can you store it? And does it fit your life? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got value out of this video, I would love it if you would subscribe, and I will see you again really soon with another video. Bye for now.